This Guy's Garage. Like and subscribe.
Today, with 1.5 million people relying on food banks, 7 million people having cut their diets below what they should be eating because they cannot afford the price of food. This is the misery that has unfolded after 8 years of this Prime Minister's inflationary deficits and carbon taxes. But it's worse. Now the Prime Minister, with the necessary help of the NDP, plans to quadruple the carbon tax to 61 cents a litre. When you tax the gas and diesel of the farmer who makes the food and the trucker who ships the food, you tax all who buy the food. No wonder people cannot afford groceries. The NDP Liberal government is taxing those groceries and now terrifyingly plans to quadruple that tax. Now, amazingly, members of the Atlantic Caucus of the Liberal Party are now saying the opposite in their ridings than they're doing on Parliament Hill. They have voted 23 times to hike the carbon tax when they're here. But then when they go back to Atlantic Canada, they say they're against the carbon tax. So, Madam Speaker, the people of Atlantic Canada are smarter than that. They're not going to be fooled by politicians who say one thing in the Atlantic and say the exact opposite when they are on Parliament Hill. They will realize this is a very simple principle. If the Atlantic Liberal MPs do not vote for Atlantic Canadians in the House of Commons, then Atlantic Canadians will not vote for Liberals at election time. Atlantic Canadians know that there is only one party that will axe the carbon tax, only one party that has stood up and fought this tax every step of the way. And over the weekend, we will make sure that Atlantic Canadians are aware that their MPs will be voting on Tuesday on whether to A, quadruple the tax to 61 cents a litre, or B, axe the tax. That's the choice. And all the constituents in their ridings will be watching carefully. We will make sure that it doesn't slip by. And we will make sure that the NDP, which has sold out working class people in favor of big government and big corporations, we're going to make sure that all their constituents know that the NDP is busy picking their pockets, that they are serving government greed in Ottawa rather than the interests of hardworking Canadians and seniors across our country. This is common sense, the common sense of the common people united for our common home. Your home, my home, our home. Let's bring it home.
Questions and comments? The honourable member for Kingston and the Islands.
Madam Speaker, Erin O'Toole ran on pricing pollution in the last federal election. Does the member from Carleton think that Mr. O'Toole made the wrong decision in doing that? And if so, why didn't he say something at the time?
The honourable leader of the official opposition.
I did. I spoke out against the carbon tax. You can look at the records of this chamber. I've been speaking out against the carbon tax since 2007. You don't have to go back. That's right. You don't have to go back to 2021. Go back almost 2 decades I've been fighting the carbon tax. Completely consistent, Madam Speaker. But this member, as people line up at food banks in his riding, he votes in here to quadruple the tax that his government imposes on their gas, heat, and groceries. The people of Kingston deserve better than that member of Parliament.
Questions and comments? The honourable member for Edmonton Strathcona.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, that speech and this entire day of debate, this motion, I mean, honestly, if that member was a kid in the playground, he'd be the kid kicking sand in everyone's eyes. It's not exactly a good look. It doesn't look like someone who's working with others. But I will say one thing, this is the same government or the same party that voted against an excise profit tax for the oil and gas industries. They were making $38 billion in profit in 1 year. This is the same party whose member tweeted about the carbon tax while her own city was on fire. This is the same party who the counterpart in Alberta is going to take Albertans' money and $50 53% of the CPP. My question for the member is this. Does he think Danielle Smith is entitled to 53% of the CPP? Does he agree with that plan? Will he?
So before I go to the point of order, I do want to remind members that somebody else has the floor, and I know that the Leader of the Opposition would like to hear the questions. So I would ask members, if it's not their turn, if they're not being recognized, to not speak out of turn. The Honourable Member for Kingston and the Islands.
Well, it was on that point of order, Madam Speaker. I think the deliberative process affords all of us to be able to listen to it. I could barely hear what was being said due to the heckling. Maybe you would allow the member to repeat her question?
I'm good. The Leader of the Official Opposition. I'm sure he heard the question, and I just want to make sure, because the voices were starting to get higher, I just want to make sure that I know that the Leader of the Official Opposition is quite capable of answering questions, so I would ask members to hold back on their thoughts. The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
You know, if I were that NDP member, I'd be back in Edmonton apologizing to Albertans for her betrayal of that province. Her party, her leader wants to shut down the single biggest industry in Canada, which is our responsible energy sector. The NDP literally works against the union jobs in Canada's energy sector in that member's own province. She votes in favor of a 61-cent a litre carbon tax that is nearly unanimously opposed by the people of Alberta. That's right. Albertans understand what Canadians across the country now understand, which is that the NDP has betrayed working class people to favor a radical leftist authoritarian agenda. We as Conservatives are the only party defending the working class people of Alberta and all of Canada.